I actually started this video and not 10 seconds in I realized I forgot to turn on the tree. Gotta make this festive, you know. We are in the month of December. So let's get to my low, my high, my act of kindness. I would say that my low is yesterday felt kind of uneventful. Not a lot happened. That's really about it. I mean, everything else about yesterday was perfectly fine. You know, I visited my folks last night. My mom is actually feeling a lot better. Because she's been sick all week. And last night we actually had a chili, which was pretty good. A chili for dinner, that was really great. And my act of kindness was I helped set up the table and clear it when, you know, dinner was over. Again, just last night was, during the day, do I even need to tell you how excited I am the fact that we're in December? I probably don't look it because I'm really tired right now, but trust me, I'm pretty stoked we're in the month of December right now. Oh yeah, and Hot Ones happened yesterday, and I want to say that for as far as I know, because on the side, I really have been kind of watching this one anime that I do believe is, you know, over now, at least for now. I mean, yeah, the story, actually, I'll talk about the anime thing in a minute, but how about I talk about Hot Ones first? Good morning, happy Friday, everyone. So, Zoe Saldana on Hot Ones. It was, obviously it was a good episode. Just about, I don't know. I know what to say, I just don't know how to begin to say it. Yesterday's episode was good, but actually there's no but. It was just a good episode. I say but because I'm trying to remember what specifically I want to talk about first. I really felt that this episode really was a good lesson for those who want to get involved with stuff like, you know, acting and learning the ways of the trade. Because Zoe Saldana's episode really did focus on, like, her journey, like the questions that Sean asked her, and the fact that she's been part of 3 of the largest grossing, like, franchise movies, you know, ever, you know, with Avatar, the MCU, Star Trek, you know, she's been through a lot. And the first question Sean asked her that kind of intrigued me is, obviously she was there to promote Avatar, The Way of the Water. And when I think about it, when Zoe Saldana said, like, because James Cameron, the director, always has had, like, an affinity with, like, water in the ocean, like, oh my gosh, I totally see it now. I mean, for goodness sake, South Park legit made fun of the fact that James Cameron goes on, like, deep submerges into the ocean. Which, come to think of it, that was a really good South Park episode. Now I think about it. Raising the Bar, that was a good South Park episode. But basically, James Cameron has always had this idea in his head for what he wanted to do. But the problem with, and one of the reasons why Way of Water, this new Avatar movie took so long to make, was, no kidding, it's one of those situations where the technology just wasn't invented yet. That's what it was. I actually thought that was pretty cool. She talked about how she's been involved with action movies as well as breaking in new ballerina shoes, which, I mean, I'm not a dancer, so I really wouldn't know how to do ballet, but she talked about specifically like cutting like the soles in half or something like that, or sort of like straight up breaking them by like banging them on the ground and stuff like that. I'm like, all this trouble over a pair of shoes. Actually, I have my share of shoe-related stories. Nothing bad that happened to me, but I know that a few that happened to others. I think one of the coolest things about this episode to me is because Zoe Saldana mentioned that, she's a mom. And as such, her kids are going to one day be old enough to watch the movies that she's been in. Because, she's, what? I'm pretty sure, like, every, all three of the franchises that she's been in, because Sean mentioned, like, of the 5, like, top grossing franchises ever, she's in, like, 3 of them. I'm pretty sure the movies involved are, like, PG-13 and older. So, when her kids are old enough, obviously they're going to be able to watch them. And it really does give you a sense of like, because here's the thing, I'm not a parent. I'd like to be one someday. I'd like to get married and have kids. But there's always going to be a point in a kid's life where they'll go from, loving you to just be like, leave me alone, guys, seriously. Because that's specifically teenagers, because that's what teenagers do. But Zoe's like, okay, if that ever does happen, but they still watch my movies anyway, and they still think that I'm pretty cool, I'll call that a win. Which, yeah, I've been annoyed by my parents hundreds of times. I still love them though. Although this does remind me of a joke I heard Trevor Noah say the other day, because he has a new special on Netflix. He said, "You forgot that love lasts forever and is unconditional. But it turns out like has a time limit." That was funny. Actually, speaking of love and like, that reminds me of the full disclosure, like, this Howard's episode was great. She didn't do the last stab though. But, it's still a great episode all around. It was great. So let's get into the anime that I watched. Now, here's the thing. I've said this before, but pretty much any anime that's made is based on a pre-existing manga. And sometimes manga can sell for lots of volumes. Unfortunately, when it comes to anime adaptations, aside from them not wholly being 100% accurate to the story, one of the main problems is when anime first gets made, it's usually greenlit for about 12, maybe 13 episodes. Meaning that, sometimes you can probably tell a cohesive story in that amount of time, but more often than not, animes have come out now end at like 12 to 13 episodes, but they still leave like there's so much more that could be explored or talked about, and they do try and set up for that, but it's sequel baiting. That's what it is. It's sort of sequel baiting, but the reason why it doesn't really offend me so much here as opposed to like a bad movie is because the story itself was pretty solid overall. In this case, I saw an anime called Call of the Night. It finally got dubbed in English. And I'll never forget my introduction to this because, okay, you know when you're about to click on a YouTube video and like you get all sorts of, because the algorithm just has to show you ads about something, whatever. I cannot tell you how many times I saw the commercial for Call of the Night. Like, really and truly. So I'm like, fine, I'll watch it. And I did. And I have to say, I thought it was pretty charming. Pretty solid. I mean, a loose idea of what this story is, this is going to sound really horrible. Imagine Twilight, only there's no love triangle. The genders as to who's human and who's vampire is reversed. There's actually greater stakes. There's better characters, better writing, greater conflict. What else am I missing? Oh yeah, and the fact that the women in this show have personality. Zing. Okay. So the story stars a young boy named Ko Yamari, who is really bored with his everyday mundane life. You know, he's a pretty smart kid, gets good grades in school, but nothing really fulfills him, nothing excites him. So one night he decides that he's going to go out and just stay out all night, because maybe something's different at night. And in the beginning, it doesn't really look like much is happening until he meets, yes, it's a boy meets girl story, a girl named Nazuna. And it turns out that Nazuna is a vampire. And as I mentioned, the whole gender reverse thing going on. And so Nazuna is pretty much showing Ko like how fun the nightlife is. And to her credit, she's doing a pretty good job of selling him onto it. And then she decides to suck his blood. And you're probably thinking, wait, a vampire sucking a person's blood? Oh no, well, in this universe, if a vampire sucks your blood, you don't necessarily die. You don't die. That's good. However, because Ko becomes so enthralled with how nightlife is, he wants to be able to experience it for the rest of his life, so he wants to become a vampire himself. Here's the thing though. You can only become a vampire if you're able to fall in love with the very person who first bit you. So basically, it's a series of Ko and Nazuna just hanging out. And, you know, there's a few lessons that young teenagers could learn from this. I mean, for one thing, when it comes to finding that special someone, there is a difference between love and arousal, let's say. Believe me, Ko really messed that one up at one point. But I mentioned that there are stakes, and there are. Obviously, the fact that Ko is human and Nazuna is a little bit on the immature side. And, I mean, she wants Ko to be her quote-unquote offspring, but it's complicated. It is. There are other vampires out there, and obviously one of the main caveats is, should Ko not become a vampire? And there are stipulations about that. obviously Ko could essentially be killed because he knows about the existence of vampires. That's pretty horrible, right? But so Ko's like, okay, no matter how long it takes, I'll become a vampire. I'll fall in love with Natsu and I'll become a vampire. Yeah, you don't have as long as it takes. From the instant you want to become a vampire's offspring, you have 1 year to fall in love with them. And you gotta do it within that year, otherwise, no go. And again, should Ko not become a vampire, he knows about the existence of vampires, so he could die. Because they will kill him. The other vampires will kill him. But you're probably thinking, well, being a vampire is great. You have to, the sucking blood part doesn't really sound so glamorous, but you could probably just not suck blood at all and live, right? Yeah, you can't do that either. Because it's revealed that in this universe, a vampire can last 10 years without sucking anyone's blood. So let's say you do become a vampire. Do you want to live the rest of however long you exist by sucking other people's blood? Or do you actually want to be honorable, not suck a person's blood, but you only live for 10 years? And it's at that point Ko decides that, maybe he's rather unsure if he wants to do it. Especially when there's a detective that figured out how to kill vampires. Oh yeah, that happened too. The final episode ended with, the other vampires are on their side. They're all for Ko and Nazuna being together. And remember how I said, an anime season usually winds up, opening the door for other plot points? That's what happened here. So basically, it ends with Ko and Nazuna wanting to be together. Obviously, Ko hasn't fallen in love yet, but, he only has a year, but, a year can be a pretty long time. It can also go by very fast, so, time's are ticking. And I legit like this. Seriously, again, this is Twilight only made infinitely better in a lot of ways. And actually, if I was in my teens, I'd probably be like, yeah, they reversed the roles of Twilight, and all vampires, for the most part, are pretty much all beautiful women. Like, yeah, okay, that worked. That's really cool. But as a 32-year-old man, I have to point out why the series is good, as to why, as to what about it works. And a lot of things about this show work, for me. You have one kid, you have a 14-year-old kid who wants to be free and do whatever he wants. And he'll become a vampire. Meanwhile, the one person who can make him into a vampire, I don't want to say she's a brat necessarily, because she's lived for many, many years. But, she'd rather stay out, party, drink, play video games. Again, the whole immature thing I mentioned earlier. So, I guess you could say it kind of is an odd couple complex. If you want to really try and, skim the hairs here. I don't know what the saying is. But this series is good. It is. It's 13 episodes as of right now. There may be more if it gets popular. If they did come out with more, I'd be open to it. I'm also pretty keen on checking out the manga if I ever do come across it. I would like to see what winds up happening. I do. But should those 13 episodes be all we get, I'm glad I watched it. Although, here's the thing. At this point, all 13 episodes have been released, so you could probably binge watch it within the span of like a weekend, maybe even just a Saturday. I, on the other hand, have been watching Call of the Night for like weekly for the last like several months. So hopefully your experience won't be like mine in terms of how long you have to wait to see it. But all in all, it was pretty good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh, and also the Bills won last night. Let's go Buffalo. Okay, so like, favorite, share, subscribe, and follow me on social platforms, YouTube. I'm very holding this video for all of you guys who are watching. Enjoy for today. Will be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday. And remember, if any of you guys want to talk to channel, is going to be here to lend an ear. I'll always have your back. Take care. Make good choices. 607 all day, baby.